Dwayne, you were talking about mimicking natural systems. So that's a lot of your approach to the way you farm and then also the way you research. And you're doing something that sounds almost unthinkable to a lot of folks who do this. But you're talking about mixing annuals and perennials. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I steal liberally from other people, so
well, that's good.
like one of the most challenging, like the first thing I always do when I travel,
Yeah.
and I've been lucky enough to do some traveling, is I want to go see the native vegetation when I go somewhere.
Right.
And then once I see the native vegetation, or kind of get a feel for the native vegetation, then you kind of know what Mother Nature will allow you to do in an ecosystem there. This is what Mother Nature says you can do here, and then how do you fit farming into that thing? That's the way. And one of the most challenging ones is probably the Western Australia type, or even Eastern Australia, the Australian wheat belt type ecosystem, because it's a Mediterranean winter rainfall type climate.
It's down near Melbourne
Well, Perth in Western Australia, east of Perth.
Okay, got it.
In that area, and then down around Adelaide and that type of area. And what's there when you see it is trees. I mean, what they call bush is trees. It's big trees because it's winter rainfall. And the first thing that I note when I see trees is that you have periods of time during the year when rainfall exceeds the ability of the soil to hold water.
Yep.
And the water will move beyond the depth where a grass type crop can get it. Whereas here we have the grasslands, because we have only very short periods of time when rainfall exceeds, or precipitation exceeds the evapotranspiration.
Yep.
And we have soils generally that will hold some water. So most of the action's occurring in the soil, where the surface 4 feet or 1.5 meters or something like that, whereas you got water moving deep in wherever you see trees at some period of time. And so you have this water moving deep in the winter time, and you have all this evapotranspiration in the summertime. And how do you throw a crop into that and move go down and get the nutrient that's leached during that wintertime and bring it back up, because the wheat's not using enough water and the canola's not using enough water. And I really could never wrap my mind around how you could do that, other than we were trying to talk them into growing crops like sorghum as summer crops, because it would be almost perennial like it is in Africa. It's a perennial.
Yep.
And would come back year after year, and so grow your crop in winter and let the sorghum come back in the summer and just be kind of your perennial cover crop. And we were trying to push toward that system. And then I ran into a guy by the name of Colin Seiss at Double, which is actually in the east, but it's a similar ecosystem. And he was doing this thing he called pasture cropping, or grain and graze, or whatever. And he used these tall what are very similar to our C4 tall grass prairie crops. Like, they have a thing called kangaroo grass that looks like big bluestills. I mean, it's basically the same thing. And then that grows during the hot summers and takes the nutrients and brings them to the surface. And then when it goes dormant, he makes it go dormant in the winter time at times, and then grows a winter crop there. So he furnishes the cool season component of the mixed species system. He says, okay, the cool season component is going to be my cereal crop and my canola, and the warm season is going to be a perennial.
Right.
And it makes a lot of sense. And I still remember the day we're in his ute, pickup.
Ute.
And, yeah, they call them utes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're driving out moving sheep because he's mob grazing or high intensity short duration grazing the paddocks, and then with his sheep, that's the other part of his system. And I still remember, I just went, dang, he's figured it out. Because I'd been wrestling with this forever, and I'm going, he just figured out how to do that. But if you, for years I'd been asking the Australian, what's your mega herbivore? And because when you see what they thought was their native vegetation, it's just really thick bush.
Right.
And I kept saying, what's the mega herbivore? Because something had to have knocked down the trees. It's like in Africa, if you didn't have the elephant knocking down the tree, you wouldn't have the antelope and the things that run, right? And the wildebeests and whatever, and zebras, because you have to have something to knock down the tree.
Yeah.
And they don't have that species there anymore, but it's a diprotodon, which I found out later. But people say, well, we never had one. And I said, you wouldn't have kangaroos if you had bush like this. You would have never developed a kangaroo species that needs open areas. You had at one time open areas, and they said, well, fire did it all.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I don't think so, and the Aborigines weren't there forever, so it wasn't them starting the fire. Now, the Aborigine, they think, extincted the diprotodon, and then they started using fire to create the open spaces that the kangaroo needs. But, I mean, you have to start trying to put those things together. Now, if you do like they're doing without having the deep-rooted species, your pH goes down,
right?
Which is what's happening in the Corn Belt or every place we
So
farm.
you're leaching all your calcium and magnesium into that profile, and the hydrogen's replacing it on
Right.
top.
I mean, you're taking them out, and they're going down, and it gets to the point where,
and they're going down with the nitrates as well.
yeah, all this stuff, and it's forming saline seeps, which is really just your fertilizer going someplace you don't want it.
Got it.
And if you put in drain tiles, it goes to the ocean, and you sure as hell don't want it there. and so you've got the whole system is leaking, and that's when you see pHs go down, it's first indication you have a leaky system.
With the low pHs.
Because your calciums are moving in your lime, and that's one of the first ones to move. But in Australia, we actually saw a situation where they tried to grow some sorghum in a paddock, and the sorghum in the paddock looked incredibly drought stressed, other than right around the lone tree out in the middle of the paddock. It looked fine.
Yeah, okay.
Well, everything I'd learned, they said, see, we told you we couldn't grow sorghum. And I said, well, everything I'd learned, about water, the tree, it should have been less healthy around the tree because the tree was using water. And I said, well, why does the sorghum look better around the tree and not? And then everybody's going, gee, we don't know. Well, the answer is the tree was cycling nutrients back to the top, and a drought symptom is actually a potassium deficiency symptom.
Okay.
My PhD's in soil fertility, so I knew that, and I had a leg up. But when we took a soil sample around the tree, it was like 100 parts per million potassium, and away from the tree, it was 5.
Okay.
So it's not just the calcium that goes. You get the potassium to go and all those other things, but your system is broken. And if you keep doing that and you keep leaking, you turn into a desert.
Right.
And so that's, the Sahara Desert at one time was a grassland. And you can leak nutrients like calcium and magnesium, but you also leak nutrients like carbon. So when we start doing tillage and our organic matter goes away, that's leaking carbon. And it goes away, and then your soil productivity goes down, and it's a spiral. I mean, Randy Anderson has a really nice, I don't know if you know Randy.
No, I don't.
Has a really nice presentation that he makes on soil degradation, how it's like a death spiral.
Yes.
Going down, and then when you start to rebuild, And people always expect, well, we come in, we start no-till, and everything's great right away.
Right.
Well, no, you've got to rebuild that soil to the point where, as close as you can get it to what it's intended to do. I mean, you're not going to necessarily get much better than what the native conditions are if you can get that good.
Yeah.
But you got to rebuild the soil, and depending on how degraded you are, it'll take you a while to rebuild it. And he talks about all these things combining to spiral it back up. It's really kind of a nice presentation. And when you talk soil health,
Yes.
not one of my favorite words, but because it's not definable.
Okay.
You know, but when you talk soil health, that's really what you're really talking about, is trying to rebuild this whole community that existed there as much as you can, where you have all these webs going on that we don't understand very well, and hopefully you can put back a lot of the species, and so that's why, you know, the diversity and stuff is important, to try to put back as much of that component as you would. You can. You know, soil health, I mean, years ago they had I think they called it even soil health years ago. NRCS had a team in Akron, Colorado, that was supposed to work on this, right? And they came here one day, and I just got them out in the field, and they said to me, I want you guys to sit down and write a definition of a beautiful woman, because they're all three men. Because that's what everybody tries to do, is, you know, and if or a handsome man, or maybe in today's society we could do whatever, but you can't define that.
Right.
See, in the same way with soil health, you can't necessarily define what it is, and so and the trouble is everybody is trying to define it on the standpoint of input. If you do this and this and this, you'll have a healthy soil.
Yes.
Well, that's like saying, well, they got to have brown eyes and,
Yeah.
you know, blue hair, whatever, and that makes it a beautiful woman. Well, you can't do that. But what you have to do is on what is the thing at the end that you're, when the whole is put together, is it working? It's kind of an output type thing, and so that's what I look at, is, you know, are we cycling the nutrients?
Okay.
In the same way with no-till and whatever these things, that they're all components. And they say, well, you got no-till, you got to do this, and you got to do. But no, are you cycling the nutrients? Are you harvesting the sunlight?
Right.
See, are you providing, you know, a home for wildlife? You know, I don't know if you took a picture of the sign.
I did. Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, living soils is one of the things that's on the sign, right? And you know, is the food healthy when it comes out? Because what we're in the business of doing is making food. You know, we're making food. That's important, but it needs to be healthy food. You know, so the outcomes are what we're really looking for. And so we can't get to that outcome with no-till alone. We can't get to that outcome with cover crops alone. We can't get to that outcome, in my opinion, with rotations that aren't diverse, which everybody wants to do, because, you know, I'm a corn grower. Well, I'm a corn grower too, and I grow wheat, and I grow teff, and I grow peas, and I grow lentils, and I grow flax, and I grow soybeans, and I grow sunflowers, and right? We do all those things, and I have some perennials. So, in that ecosystem that we have out there, in an irrigated ecosystem, can I cycle the nutrients without having a perennial? No, I don't think we can. I'm pretty dang sure we can't after 20 some years. We have pretty good evidence we can. I don't think there's anybody that says we can without having a perennial, deep-rooted perennial in there to go down and do some things we can't do with annuals. I mean, annuals have roots out there for a very short period of time. What percentage of the year do we have a root impacting that soil, feeding the microorganisms that are there? Our farm programs tend to favor annual cropping.
Yeah.
And so farmers do what the economics tell them they have to do to a certain extent. But if we put in perennials, we're punished. I mean, for life of me, I can't understand why we pay one guy to put in CRP for 10 years and we take money away from another guy if he puts in a perennial in a rotational sequence. I mean, it makes no sense. Take the money you're giving the guy to put in CRP and spread it around to everybody and say you all got to do perennial sequence. It makes a hell of a lot more sense.
Yeah, yeah.
But why would they listen to me? But
now you're going to tell us about this alfalfa that you're growing.
But what the alfalfa is doing out there is it's the perennial.
Right.
In that system, well, I'm still growing corn. And that field happens to be something I don't like to do, but we do it because it says research on the gate.
Yeah.
It's been in corn continuously since 1990. So, how do I add diversity to that system? There's not time to put a cover crop. We're not in South Carolina.
Right.
You know, we're harvesting corn yesterday and it's going to be froze up and snow tonight. You know, I mean, that's the way it is here. You don't really have that time. But if I have the alfalfa growing there, it grows in the period of time of the year when the corn isn't. Corn is only occupying that space for a very short period of time, and the roots for a very short period of time. So we're putting that there, and it's feeding some biology we don't have. We think with mycorrhizing, whatever, it's going to feed the corn a lot of its nitrogen. We haven't documented that to this point, so I'm not going to discuss that, but it should supply a good share of the nitrogen directly to the corn, like a polycrop system. Now, how long can I keep the alfalfa alive? Well, more than 2 years. We know this, you know, but can I do that for 5 years? And maybe that serves the function that instead of taking a year with no crop,
right,
that I can have a perennial. But I think in longer rainfall area or longer growing season areas, then something like what Colin Seiss does with the grain and graze, where he has a perennial during one season and an annual that makes him money during another season, makes some sense. And I think there are some people looking at that other than us now.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, that sounds good. I mean, what you had also talked about was in a sense you're almost seeing the corn plant in the summer enslaving some of the nitrogen producing ability, and that's probably a mycorrhizal action between the two plants.
Yeah, no, there's really good data that happens.
Okay. Yeah.
And we've got some good documentation of it happening with annual crops, and this is where some of the real scientists come in. You know, the lab rats that do things. They call themselves lab rats, but they're in the laboratories looking at, well, what's happening out there, and that's fine. I think we need those. I'd love those people to tell me exactly what the heck's going on out here.
Yeah.
When we observe things, but you know, one of the things that's happened in science, and that in the old days, 80 years ago, which isn't old. But I mean, 80 years ago, a lot of science was observation.
Yes.
And because you couldn't do all the statistics we do now. And so a lot of science was observation. A lot of plant breeding was observation, and all the stuff that Einstein and these people did in terms of figuring out the theory of relativity and those kind of stuff was basically thought process and observation, and then playing these little games. What happens if I do this, and stuff that they couldn't really do. I mean, we're now still proving some of what that thought process led him to theorize. And basically, a lot of what we've done is based on observation and then theorizing what happens when we move that a bit.
Yeah.
And you know, when you talk about cover crop, I'll just give you this little, so you don't feel too good about it. My grandfather, when he seeded oats, would seed oats and sweet clover at the same time. And then when he would pull his horse-drawn binder through that field to bind the oats into bundles that they would shock and later thrash, he would have dwarf Essex rapeseed, a bucket of dwarf Essex rapeseed sitting by his feet, and he would be throwing them out because the horses know where they were going. I mean, it's just a matter of sitting there and throwing the dwarf Essex rapeseed out.
Yeah.
And then when they got the oats shocked, they could turn the sheep out, because the sheep would leave the shocks alone. They don't care.
Yeah.
They would eat the green stuff, and so they ate the weeds and they ate the sweet clover.
Yeah.
And then they'd stomp on the dwarf Essex rapeseed, and if they got some rain, it would start to grow. And then when they got time to haul the bundles into the buildings and thresh the oats, then they could turn the cows out.
Yeah.
To eat the dwarf Essex rapeseed and the sweet clover. And the volunteer oats that was coming up out there.
Well, you know, I think that kind of speaks to, you know, a lot of the stuff we're doing now is almost rediscovering what we did in the past. Or
yeah, I said that in. I got inducted into the South Dakota Hall of Fame in 2007, which is, you know, I mean, South Dakota Hall of Fame is not a big state, so, but anyway, Sparky Anderson, if you're a baseball fan, went in the same time I did, so that's kind of a big deal. But basically, that's what I said, is I'm getting inducted into the Hall of Fame for rediscovering things my grandfather and father did.
Yeah.
And bringing them back in and putting a twist on that we're going to do this now in a modern context with not doing tillage, and but the whole idea of crop rotations and stuff is and that's what the only thing we ever did is we just took these old principles, these old ecological principles of crop rotation and predators and prey, and we haven't used an insecticide on the farm here in about 10 years.
So you're also using natural solutions to natural problems.
Well, we're attempting to.
Yeah.
You know, and if we screw it up, then we have to come in and take a big bat and hit the reset button maybe. But we haven't had to do that now in quite a while. And our first instinct when we do see an insect, or a weed or an insect or whatever, I mean, I get in trouble with my wife for saying this the way I normally say it, so I'll try not to. But Mother Nature's not a blank word. She's an opportunist. Okay, so when you have a problem out there, you've provided the opportunity somewhere.
Okay. So
I mean, it's you know, we were talking before we went on camera about these bats and the moths, and there's a species of moth now that's developed a thorax that puts out this high frequency sound that confuses bats, and they put them in these cages with these moths, and the bats just fly into the walls and whatever, they can't catch the moth.
Right.
Okay, I mean, that's the you know, the rattlesnakes that aren't rattling anymore because people kill ones that rattle, and they've developed this, you know, they always had some rattlesnakes that didn't rattle because they couldn't rattle, they were deformed.
Yes.
But they're living and the other ones are dying, so they're becoming predominant. I mean, it's this same
Same principle.
Same principle.
So anytime you open up a niche, Mother Nature's going to move in and exploit that niche.
Yeah.
And
So how do we come in and fill that niche so she doesn't fill? And that's what a cover crop does.
right.
Instead of going out and spraying weeds and spraying weeds and spraying weeds, we say, okay, here's a niche that she's going to supply. If you don't supply something there, she will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And bang, the way we do the insect thing is we're very, very cautious about using insecticide, because we learned early on, as soon as we pull that trigger on an insecticide, then we kill the predators. Our entomology friends tell us we have about 2 billion predators per acre.
Okay.
With a bee. And some of them are ants, and then one of the main causes of death of things like aphids is fungi.
Right.
So if you have a very active fungi population there, I mean, they give the heebie-jeebies to the aphids when they come in.
Yeah.
But if you start throwing a bunch of fungicides out there,
That's the end of your
then
your aphid population begins to blow up or explode.
yeah, and there's really good evidence of that. I mean, there's good numbers, good real science that people have proven that. I mean, we guessed that
Yeah.
at one time based on principles,
Yeah. Yeah.
but